You didn't find this moment by accident. Something subtle, ancient, and intentional brought you here, because whether you realize it or not, the energy right now is tuned to wake you up. Not gently, but thoroughly. You're standing in a field of invisible frequency, and that frequency has one assignment: to pull your dormant power to the surface. Not the surface power you show others, but the deeper layer, the version of you that knows why you're really here. You may feel restless lately, not because something is wrong, but because something sacred is finally stirring. It's that quiet discomfort that doesn't have a name yet. The sense that the life you're living no longer fits your inner shape. This isn't chaos, it's an activation. It's the sound of reality cracking, just enough for your higher self to slip through. You'll know it's real, because the old ways of distracting yourself are starting to lose flavor. You can't scroll it away. You can't overthink it into silence. There's a presence in the air now, and it's whispering through synchronicities, strange dreams, and that eerie feeling that something is watching you evolve. No, you're not imagining it. You're being witnessed by your own becoming, observed by the part of you that already made it through. And it's calling back through time, urging you to catch up, to remember, to realign. Because if you could see the true architecture of what's unfolding right now, you would never again settle for what used to feel safe. And once you sense it, even just a glimpse, you can't go back. This isn't just July, and these aren't just summer days strung together by habit. This is a sacred hinge in time, a disguised threshold wearing the costume of leisure. While the world plays grills, relaxes, something quieter is rising beneath the noise. It's the kind of shift you don't notice until everything after it feels different. Like waking up and realizing you've been dreaming with your eyes open. July was never meant to be a pause. It was designed as a pivot, a soft season cloaked in sun to keep the real work subtle. Because transformation doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it hides in warm air, long afternoons, and a strange pull toward nothing in particular. This month holds an ancient assignment, not to slow you down, but to change your trajectory entirely. It's not passive, it's strategic, because July rearranges timelines in whispers, and most people miss it. They see vacations and fireworks, but miss the cosmic surgery happening just beneath their routines. What looks like rest is realignment. What feels like boredom is the blank canvas before a download. What appears as ordinary is actually sacred calibration. Don't let the softness fool you. This is a month of quiet detonations, the kind that don't destroy, but dislodge. And if you lean in, even slightly, you'll sense it, the crack forming in the middle of the year, an invitation hiding in plain sight, because this isn't the middle of the year, it's the moment the year splits open and reveals what it was always trying to become. There's something unusual in the air this week. Not loud, not chaotic, but urgent, like a clock ticking behind the veil, counting down to something you can't quite name. You'll feel it not as panic, but as pressure, the sense that time itself is tightening around you, not because you're late, but because something is early, like an opportunity arrived before you were ready, and now the universe is standing at your door, waiting to see if you'll open it without all your answers lined up. There's a frequency shift happening, a quickening of unseen currents, and it doesn't care whether you feel prepared. It's not waiting for your confidence, it's waiting for your willingness. This pressure won't show up as disaster, it'll show up as the urge to change something you've tolerated for too long, a conversation you suddenly have to have, a pattern that now feels unbearable in your body. It's not confusion, it's compression. Your inner timelines are being squeezed, merged, forced to converge at the point of decision. You'll feel it in your sleep, in your mood, in the strange way your memories start rearranging themselves. You'll notice people acting slightly off. Some will get more irritable, others quieter than usual. That's not coincidence. It's the atmosphere pressing inward. This week is like standing in the pause before lightning strikes. You don't know where the bolt will land, but you know the air has changed. And if you've been waiting for some obvious sign, a billboard from the cosmos, be careful, because this time the signal won't shout, it will flicker. Once, maybe twice. And if you miss it, you miss the whole doorway. This week is not neutral. It's a threshold disguised as a calendar date, a spiritual hallway that leads in only one direction. Forward. You're not standing still. Even if it feels like it, you're already in motion towards something that cannot be undone once it's lived. And whether you walk or get dragged, the door behind you will close. This isn't punishment, it's precision. Because some timelines can only carry you so far. And this week, they expire. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this choice. Not a fantasy self or idealized dream, but the real you, the one your soul signed a contract with before you ever got here. This week activates that contract. The moment will not feel theatrical. It won't come with lightning or divine orchestras. It might come while you're brushing your teeth, sitting in traffic, pausing mid-sentence in a conversation you've had 1,000 times, and suddenly knowing this is over, or this is beginning. But either way, something shifts so clearly that you can never unknow it again. This is not just another week in the year, it's the final stretch before a karmic gate swings shut. The last inhale before the next lifetime of you exhales. And what makes it powerful isn't the scale of what happens, it's the precision of what no longer happens. Because this week is not about doing more, it's about deciding more clearly with your full soul behind your yes and your no. So whatever you've been postponing, whatever choice you've been circling, this is it. The moment you become someone who chooses, instead of someone who waits. July 7, you might glance at it and think it's just another day, another square on the calendar. But it's not. It's a key encoded with triple alignment, the 7th day of the 7th month in a year whose digits 2 and 5 also sum to 7. That's 7. Some call it lucky, others call it divine sequence. But this is more than numerology. It's a portal, and it doesn't ask for permission. 77 isn't soft energy. It breaks things open. It splits illusions like lightning strikes dry wood. Because the number 7 doesn't play by surface rules. It's the seeker, the revealer, the one that drills down into the marrow of truth and asks, what's still real down here? On 7/7, the universe doesn't wait for your rituals. It becomes the ritual. Everything you say, think, broadcast, intentionally or not, echoes louder, travels faster, and returns sharper. You might feel time behave strangely, moments folding in on each other, déjà vu within déjà vu. You may speak a truth you didn't plan to, or receive a message you weren't supposed to ignore. This day isn't passive. It reflects whatever you place before it. And that's where the power and the risk live. If you bring clarity, you accelerate. If you bring chaos, it multiplies. That's why so many feel overwhelmed on days like this. Not because the energy is against them, but because they unconsciously fed it something fragmented. So be deliberate. Not in your to-do lists, but in your frequency. What you ask for on 7/7 isn't whispered. It's announced, and it's heard. This is the mirror day, and the mirror doesn't care who you pretend to be. It reflects what you are. So show up as the version of yourself you want multiplied, because this portal is exact, and it amplifies whatever it finds. The full moon on July 10 isn't gentle. It doesn't bathe the world in soft glow. It carves through fog and shows you what you've been unwilling to see. This moon doesn't ask. It reveals, not through drama, but through undeniable stillness. The kind of stillness that feels like being caught in a moment of truth you didn't ask for, but can't look away from. This isn't the kind of full moon where you set intentions or write affirmations. This is the kind where your soul hands you a mirror and asks, can you finally see this? Someone in your life, maybe someone close, maybe someone you've been unsure about, will suddenly appear differently. Not because they've changed, but because you have a word, a glance, a silence that lands too loud, and suddenly the spell breaks. The illusion clears, and you can't go back to seeing them the way you did before. It might be someone you love, someone you trust, or someone whose power over you is quietly unraveling. But something inside you will whisper, there it is. That's the truth beneath the surface. And it won't come with fireworks. It'll come with a thud of knowing in your gut, a deep exhale that sounds like grief and freedom at the same time. But this isn't betrayal. It's revelation. It's your frequency syncing with the next version of your life. And in that alignment, some bonds tighten, others dissolve. You may wake up the next morning and realize the person you saw under the moonlight is not the person you thought they were, and neither are you. Because this moon doesn't just illuminate others, it lights up the part of you that has outgrown the contract. And once that light enters your eyes, you can't unsee it. You won't want to. This isn't closure, it's clarity. And clarity always comes right before something ends or begins. It starts small, a flicker, barely noticeable, a shadow that passes too quickly to hold, but leaves a strange echo behind. You see it again the next day, same hour, same angle, and again the next. 3 times in 3 days. That's not coincidence. That's contact. This is not a message from outside you, it's from ahead of you. Your future self, the version that already made the leap, is trying to get your attention. Not through dreams or loud signs, but through repetition, through anomalies, through those eerie little moments that glitch your day and make you pause. It could be a memory resurfacing out of nowhere, a person calling you right as you think their name, a number that follows you across clocks, receipts, and street signs. That's not random, it's rhythmic. It's a pattern designed to break your autopilot. The flicker is the whisper before the pivot, the tap on your shoulder before the storm of change. And it doesn't beg for your attention. It waits to see if you'll notice. Because here's the secret. You don't need another sign. You already saw it. The moment it happened the 3rd time, the window opened. But here's the other side of that truth. The window won't stay open long. If you brush it off, if you shrug and scroll past it, that nudge will calcify into resistance. And what could have been a smooth shift becomes a disruption you have to clean up later. Because the universe always makes the turn, the question is whether you're co-steering or getting carried. This flicker, this barely there moment, is actually a grace period, a soft warning from the future that something wants to move now. It doesn't require a big leap. It might just ask for a small yes, a recalibrated hour, an honest conversation, a project dusted off, a decision no longer postponed. Catch it, and you flow. Miss it, and August arrives with a closed door. This is not punishment. It's precision. Because sometimes the most important spiritual messages don't come in thunder, they come in flickers you almost didn't notice. This week might not feel good, but it will feel real. And there's a sacred difference. We're taught that spiritual alignment should feel like peace, like blissful clarity and soft, glowing ease. But that's a myth. A comfort story we tell ourselves to delay the deeper work. Real alignment, it feels like sandpaper against illusion. It stings. It disrupts. It scratches away everything you've outgrown, especially the parts you secretly clung to for identity. You may feel anxious for no reason, heavy with memories that shouldn't be resurfacing, pulled into emotions that don't seem to match the moment. That's not regression. It's friction. Because when something is about to shift permanently, the misaligned layers don't just dissolve, they burn off. And that urn is sacred. This is shadow integration, not shadow work you do on a schedule, but the kind that finds you mid-step, mid-sentence, and demands your presence in discomfort. You might find that the mask you wear for others suddenly feels unbearable, that the story you've been telling yourself no longer fits the shape of your truth. You might feel raw, unsteady, like everything in you is reaching for an answer that hasn't arrived yet. That's because you're not meant to answer anything this week. You're meant to feel, to sit in the truth that rises when the distractions no longer work. Don't rush to fix it. Don't spiritualize the pain away. Let the discomfort breathe. Let it scrape against the old scaffolding until what's false falls off. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the pressure you feel, that cracked voice, that tight chest, that impulse to escape, isn't failure. It's proof you're standing at the edge of the version of you that cannot survive the next chapter. Stay with it. Let it strip you down to what's essential. Because on the other side of this discomfort is a version of you that doesn't just survive truth. They embody it. You may feel it settling in, the stillness, the quiet disconnect, like conversations suddenly fall flat, like people you're usually synced with are drifting into static. It might feel like something's wrong, but nothing is wrong. In fact, something sacred is trying to get through. This week, isolation isn't a void, it's a vessel. You're not being ignored, you're being invited into a frequency only you can hear. Because spiritual downloads don't arrive in the crowd, they arrive in the space between distractions, in the pause between words, in the silence that most people run from. And right now, you are being recalibrated. Not by noise, but by absence. You may feel the pull to cancel plans, to retreat, to choose quiet over catching up. Honor that pull. It's not laziness. It's alignment. When the universe wants to send you something meant only for you, it clears the room. Not because others are unworthy, but because they'd interfere with the clarity. You don't need to force connection. Not this week. Not when every external voice becomes static to the one internal message that's finally getting loud enough to land. Let the distance happen. Let your availability collapse. Not forever, but for now. Because what's coming through this silence isn't random, it's precision guidance. A message too delicate to compete with noise, too sacred to yell over your social habits. And yes, if you're used to being on for everyone, this emptiness might feel like exile. But it's not exile. It's attunement. Your future self doesn't need company right now. It needs clarity. And that clarity arrives in a room with no one else in it. So don't fill the quiet. Don't scroll it away. Don't text just to feel less alone. Instead, meet yourself. Sit in the frequency of your own voice and wait. Because what's coming needs space to land. There's a quiet untangling happening right now. Not loud enough to name, but deep enough to change you. This week begins a sacred unraveling, a release of energetic agreements your soul made in old chapters, contracts that once helped you grow, but now weigh you down like threads pulled too tight across time. These soul contracts don't end with drama. They dissolve through recognition, a whisper in your chest that says, "I'm done." Even if your mind still argues, even if your ego wants more time, the expiration date has already passed. You might feel it in strange ways. A sudden wave of grief with no name, dreams of people you haven't thought about in years, a sharp aversion to something you used to chase. These aren't mood swings, they're echoes of energetic closures. Because karmic release doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it feels like forgetting to care, like no longer needing closure, because clarity arrived unannounced. This isn't about blame. This is about completion. You're not abandoning anyone. You're honoring the part of you that no longer fits inside old patterns, old promises, old versions of yourself that needed those bonds to feel stable. But now, stability isn't the goal. Evolution is. And yes, it might feel disorienting, because even toxic patterns give us structure. Even pain can feel familiar enough to cling to. But the soul doesn't cling. It evolves. And this week, your soul is in motion. Let the cords loosen. Let the old ties dissolve without explanation. You don't need to announce anything. You just need to stop rebinding yourself to what already ended. Some things are not meant to be mourned. They are meant to be released lovingly, without chasing, without defending. This isn't a breakdown. It's a spiritual closing ceremony. And the moment you stop trying to understand why it's ending, you'll finally feel what's trying to begin. Your energy is not infinite, even if the world keeps pretending it is. This week will try to pull you in 1,000 directions, more conversations, more requests, more distractions disguised as invitations. But every yes you give to what drains you is a no to your own becoming. There is nothing selfish about sacred protection. In fact, it's spiritual strategy. The universe is watching how you treat your own time, your own nervous system, your own peace. Because what you tolerate, you amplify. This is the week to draw the line in the sand. Not with anger, but with clarity. Say no to the meeting that could wait. Say no to the call that feels obligatory. Say no to the habit of over-explaining your needs to people who never honored them anyway. Every time you reinforce a boundary, you send a message to the universe. I take myself seriously, and the universe will respond in kind. This isn't about becoming unavailable. It's about becoming precise. Instead of 5 half-present conversations, choose one soul-deep connection. Instead of chasing every impulse, anchor in what actually calls you forward. Your energy is currency. And this week, if you invest it recklessly, you'll feel spiritually overdrawn by the weekend. Protecting your peace isn't retreat, it's preparation. Because what's coming next in your journey needs a version of you that's resourced, rested, and rooted in self-trust. So clear the noise. Declutter your calendar. Refuse to dilute your presence for approval. This isn't avoidance. It's alignment. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You're here to be everything you need to be for the version of you that's arriving now. After all the build-up, the pressure, the flickers, the full moon, the solitude, something clicks. Not with a bang, not with applause, but with a quiet certainty that lands in your body like truth that's always been there, waiting for you to be still enough to hear it. This is the part no one teaches you to look for. The aftermath of alignment. When the chaos has cleared just enough that you no longer chase understanding because something inside you has already understood. You'll feel it in the smallest moments. You'll pause mid-thought and realize you're no longer looping that old story. You'll breathe around someone and notice your chest doesn't tighten anymore. You'll stand at a familiar edge and realize you're not afraid of the leap this time. This isn't relief, it's recognition. The version of you who walks out of this week is not the one who walked in. Because clarity doesn't always arrive as a thought. It arrives as a shift in your nervous system, in your breath, in the way your energy responds to what used to drain it. This is what post-breakthrough stillness feels like. Not numbness, but deep inner alignment. You won't need to explain your boundaries. They'll speak through your energy. You won't need to second-guess your path. You'll just take the next step, naturally, precisely. This is the week where your frequency locks in, where you stop trying to become and start being the version of yourself your future has been waiting for. You may not know what's next, but you'll know who you are as you meet it. And that knowing, that embodiment, is the true arrival. Because sometimes the biggest spiritual shift isn't what changes around you, it's who you no longer are within you. If you're still here, still breathing in these words, then some part of you has already shifted. Not because I said so, but because your soul heard something it had been waiting for. This isn't just a video. It's a mirror. And you wouldn't have watched it all the way through unless some part of you was ready to be seen. So take a breath, not just to relax, but to mark the moment. Because this is the line between who you were before this message and who you get to become now that you've heard it. You don't need to rush. You don't need to figure it all out. You just need to stay awake to what's already moving through you. And if you'd like to stay in this space, to walk with others who feel the shift, to hear more messages like this as the cosmic tide turns, then consider subscribing, not just to the channel, but to your own unfolding. Because we're just getting started. And your next version, it's closer than you think.